taking things from other people could make you invincible, but it would be bad if you kept doing that and that was the only miracle, because then that's more of like a curse and you're a genie if you do that continuously. And here's the curveball, is that when you put products into your body, if they're like made of like mRNA, then the makers of it. And so just like a sound coming from like this gas station, if that's in this video and then this video gets put onto the internet, I could get sued by the person who's making the sound in the background. And that's all done through copyright. And so then copyright is also in patents, and patent people are doing that, which you wouldn't even believe. Imagine if someone patented artificial ingredients. We're all screwed because everyone gets food. So the horizon's dropping in the backdrop. You can see the valence of the edge of the horizon is kind of peeping out in like little pixel. In any case, if it was all black and like more darker, then it would be like a perfect black body. And that's kind of like an ultraviolet, but it's just black instead of purple. And that's a threshold that you can encumber things out from, to have a threshold like free energy, but it's just like free, well, whatever you would like to do with the black body. So we don't want to be like Nimrod. The outset from understanding the nature and the forces is that like you can have really dry air, and that would make for things that aren't like substantially natural, as like acid rain. There's a character in the Bible, his name is Nimrod, and his name stems from like nincompoop. I mean, just Nimrod is a bad name in general, but his name stems from he thought he could be like a king by owning the air, and then he thought he could have the air and be the king of the fire, and he didn't know that the air blew the fire, and then he just did all this in synchronicity and trying to achieve like the water, but then he didn't know that the water came from the snow, and so he was trying to own the snow and then the water and then the fire, onwards and forth going, until you got to know that the forces drive the nature, and then nature is circum from forces. That's what Nimrod hit his thumb on, and lo and behold, the cytokine storm is like neither, and that's why it can't be acclimated by medicines. I had some problems explaining what an embodiment entails, and I think it can be defined through an enactment. If you have a cytokine storm, it means your body's going haywire. An infinite amount of drugs won't help it, because it's like a snowball effect in Alaska on top of a hill with tornadoes everywhere. So what's possible? You know, I feel bad for handicapped people, but when I see a runner and he's got a leg that is arced like a boomerang, and it's got more spring than a natural leg, I'm thinking he's got an advantage because he's got a lot more spring in his step. And so that's hard to say, but it's realistically true. And if you have a person who has a clone, who has a leg that has that same arc boomerang under their knee that got cut off, but it just looks like a leg, because you can do that when you're cloning, then that is a unfair advantage, even though it doesn't look the way. So nowadays, they change the name of things if they don't like how it sounds, because they don't want to offend anyone. Lo and behold, there's an entire town named Tomahawk, and that's highly offensive. But then a mascot of a black hawk has to be changed from an Indian into a hawk. Luckily, it could keep the name. Moreover, there's a box of Crayolas, and they make like a color for every person. I was just told this. I don't know if it's true. But then more days is like they're incorporating cloning. And so like a clone of an animal, no, they're actually inducing clones of people. And so you can get the color of a crayon of anyone, but then they're gonna be inducing like an immortal cell line where it's picking the color, but then like if you induce both at either end, you're gonna be like eliminating all the things that they don't like because it's racist in the name, but more so if you have like an immortal cell line with like a perfect person, then you're going to be enabling that aspect and meeting the ratio at the bottom, which would be the names of like things that people don't like. And so if you have something infinity, like a perfect person, that can actually enact and encumber the literal names of the nomenclature of all the words that they didn't like because the words are associated with like a town or a school. And so that embodiment mixed with something like perfect, which they can make clones perfect in the future, is what they're aiming towards. You're gonna like fuse both of those together, and anyone against not liking a certain name of a town or a school will actually like have a hard time, because they're gonna be like, aside from a parallel, perpendicular purview of the perfect clone that has not only the perfect cell line, but the benefit of the doubt from all the things that have been eradicated, because you eradicate things when you're canceling the names like Tomahawk of towns, or just the different names of schools and Indians where they had to change the mascots. To introduce the word purview, I don't think it's a word, but if you're dealing with virtual reality, it would be horizontal and vertical, well, at the same time, because it's non-complacent, I mean non-localized, but from the perspective and the peripheral vision, that's the enactment of the mirror projection of the virtual reality would consist of both at the same time. And so purview would cover both at the same time. So measurements as well, those were created in synchronicity of whoever was prominent. So whoever had the largest enchilada, the big enchilada, they got to choose the name of the measurement and the amount of the measuring for across the board. And so when you go across the pond, the measurements are different because their prominent figures had different ideas for what was a proper measurement. And so when there's like more things being involved, like virtual reality, you'd probably have to encumber both measurements and names to describe something that has not yet been. Coming up with words to describe things had to be done, and who first did it? A lot of our English is based off Latin, and that's a double entendre because English came from England and it's based off Latin. And to an English person, we speak broken English. And to Southern people, they speak very broken English. So when the words come to like gerrymandering or a juxtaposition, juxtaposition. So those words are pretty colorful, and whatever that came from was probably England instead of Latin.